feeling that we're all going to learn something and we're all going to get to know each other a little bit better.
Oh, it's going to be a good time.
So Brian, I want to kick things off. I want to just kind of throw some questions at you, just to kind of set the level, and then we'll get a little bit deeper from there. So,
for sure.
I was reading up a little bit about your bio, and I know that you started off in welding and fabrication and then made the jump over to motorcycles. What inspired you or got that kind of those wheels turning in your mind to move over to the motorcycle world?
Well, I started fabrication pretty early on, as a career, and I started at the bottom, MIG welding trailers and literally, at the bottom of welding, I got into it. So, and I already had a really big passion for bikes. I was into bikes, but that was really the extent of it, and I owned them and at times, and so they were always there. And then as I got a little bit older and older, I thought about building one and had a lot of ups and downs, and it never really worked out. Had a few things that I got involved with and tried to do, but I never built a bike. So up until just a few years ago, I built a bike. And we can get into all what led into doing that, but it was just a passion for bikes. And then years and years, I've done a lot of things, but I kind of always came back. Welding has always been the thing to kind of, get me back on track, or a job that, money's there, hard work, kind of a change of pace. It's always been my rock. So in terms of work or an employment. So, all those years of doing that kind of transferred over to building bikes. I guess sometimes you don't realize sitting there at a welding table 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, miserable as fuck, that, you're really learning something. And one day it could transfer into something you love. So that's kind of how it all came about.
Yeah. You were welding for what, like 20 years before you started getting into bikes?
Yeah, off and on. Like I said, I started pretty basic, like $10 an hour MIG job. I had kind of had a career path early in life and got into a little trouble and fucked that all up. So I turned to welding, and I've done a lot of things on and off, chasing what I thought was, this or that. And like I said, it always came back to welding. And then as it went on, I progressed into TIG welding, and then ultimately precision close tolerance stainless work, which you definitely see in my bikes, which you said you want to talk about. So that's how all the details of what I did and what I learned over all those years. Fabrication's fabrication. So it's just transferring it to a motorcycle.
The stainless steel work that you did, is that in the kind of like the medical field? Is that, if I understand that correctly?
Yeah, a lot of the pharmaceutical grade, food grade. I worked for an engineering firm up in Cincinnati, and for about 4 or 5 years, and we did a lot of package handling systems, designing and building, and it's all stainless and close tolerance, everything within 30 thousandths. So it's really suited for building motorcycles.
All right, so I want to press the pause button right here and get back to what you said, because I don't know if everybody in the chat heard that. That's insane, dude. So you are doing stainless steel frames. Yeah,
it's been done before. Jesse James had done one or two, and had offered them, and Will Ramsey with Faith Forgotten, who's an amazing fabricator in our industry. It's been done, but it's rare. Some of that's from, the difficulty of working with stainless steel. It's a lot more difficult than, your mild steels. It's not the ideal metal for frames, super high horsepower bikes and stuff like that. But frames are triangular shape, which is the strongest shape. So I figured I'd gamble and build them out of it. And but yeah, they're 316 polished stainless steel. I hand polish them all out, where a lot of times they're mistaken for chrome, but it's, and I like the polish, because even nickel plating, when you nickel plate something, it has a little more depth than chrome, that bright chrome, but I don't think anything gives that the soul of raw metal, There's something in real metal and the raw metal and the depthness to it that you just can't get from coatings. So polishing aluminum and stainless and things like that. Really, just when it's all done sitting there, I think really have a big factor to the eye. That's just a little bit different.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, just looking at that stainless steel. I'm going to throw up a couple pictures of some of the bikes that you've built here in just a minute. But before we get into that, I want to get into a couple of the stories, man. We're going to jump right into some of these stories, bud. And I hope it's nothing that gets us thrown off of YouTube. But if it does, hey man, it was a good run while it lasted.
I'm glad I could be the one to do
it. Everybody out there in the chat, listen up. So let's get to the strippers. You mentioned something before we got on, man. It sounds like you've lived a lot of lives, as many builders probably have, and many motorcycle riders do too. So a little bit about your past, man. Tell me about that. You mentioned it, just the tip of the iceberg. What was that all about?
Yeah, it fits with your background there. I told you I grew up in Vegas through junior high and high school till the end of high school, and then went back out through my 20s and to about early 30s off and on, and I think, or late 20s. And but yeah, I went out there as an adult the first time, and it could be a real long story, but I got into working security at strip clubs and out there, and then that led into managing strip clubs, some of the biggest ones in Vegas, and then that led, Vegas is a transient town and a lot goes on there, so it's if you're in an industry or you work there, once you're in, you're kind of in. So that opened up the doors to a lot of other things work-wise, privately, and stuff we were doing out there, kind of the underground of Vegas, if you will. But
there's an underground in Vegas? No,
yeah. So yeah, there's so much. There's so many dynamics to it. Nobody even knows. Like, as you go out as a tourist, like, you have no clue. Like,
oh my God!
There was I remember our club. We would have, there'd be like 2-hour wait to get in at the peak. At like happening times, and there's so many dynamics to that. Like the cab drivers get paid to bring people. There's a whole system that it's like everything's really well thought out to make everybody money off the people that come to visit.
I'll bet.
But so, yeah,
I know they've got a lot of spots out there from what I've heard, Spearmint, Rhino, Scores, these type of places. And yeah, I always wondered, because I have friends who live in Henderson, and they'll take us every now and then. Of course, the only time they go to the strip when they have somebody in town, so we go and check it out. And there are all these things of like these, looks like buses or limos or something, just picking people up at the hotels and dropping them off at those strip clubs and everything like that. And I'm like, man, there's got to be a boatload of money in promotions and stuff like that.
Well, and this was going back, quite a few years now. But, when I was out there last, there's a whole, it's called a little inside deal on Vegas. There's the cab authority, and they dictate what all the cabs do. So like, if you have an out-of-state license, to get in our club was $35 per person. So we got $5 of that, and the cab driver got 30. And there's meetings, and there's a whole thing within the clubs and ownership of who's paying out what and how much. So whoever's basically paying out the most is going to have the most people bringing people there with the cabs. So it's a way deeper, because what does everybody do? Get in a cab and take me to the best strip club. Or even if you get in the cab and you say, I want to go to the Rhino, the driver, dude, I got the place for you. Let me take you here. Trust me, I know what you're looking for, because he's getting paid more. So it's,
oh wow,
it's that Vegas is one big hustle, man. So
that's nuts. Well, I had a friend who was a DJ at one of these clubs here in town, and I said, oh man, does it pay well? He goes, dude, what they pay me to be there is nothing compared to what I make on the side from what happens in the place. I'm like, all right. Yeah, I didn't want to know too many details, but there's always those economies where one thing can lead to another.
But everybody has the big misconception with Vegas that prostitution's legal, and it's not. Not in Clark County. Now, outside of there, like, we owned several clubs. One was a brothel in Pahrump, which is outside of Vegas. So I could send you and all your buddies that come in. We could work a whole deal where I send you out to the brothel and it's all legal.
Wow.
But it's really actually strict in Las Vegas, and even within the clubs. I mean, I've managed clubs where Vice comes in and raids the place just because they do that from time to time to check everybody's paperwork and do all the stuff. So it's a big back and forth. You know, whenever there's a lot of money involved, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things involved. You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of things involved. You know what, man? You have so many stories, dude. I have a hat here somewhere. It's right over here. It says, "God bless Johnny Cash." But one of the reasons I love that hat is he has a story like a lot of other people have, where somehow, some way he was involved with some stuff that maybe he just found himself in the middle of and was able to get himself out of it, made himself a success, got everything back on the straight and narrow.
Yep.
And you wouldn't know it by seeing the end result of Johnny Cash. But when you go back and you look at a movie like Walk the Line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. It kind of makes me feel not so bad for some of the stuff that might happen in my past as well. But we've all got those things that we had to fight through and get out to the other side.
Yeah. And a lot of people, if you do get to that point where you have success or you do well, or, most people don't know that road. They don't know that path. I mean, so it hasn't always, the past few years with the bike thing have been really great. And this past, recent time in my life has changed a lot, but there was a lot before that people don't know or see when they just see the end result. So, I mean, it was like 12 years ago, I was homeless, it's my own doing, but it was
no way,
yeah, I mean, short time, but I mean, it's just, and that's how you learn, man, but like I said, people don't see the whole spectrum,
right.
And it's easy to just look at somebody and see their successes and form an opinion just on that and not really know the person,
Man, that is this is getting into a deeper conversation than I thought we were going to have.
I'll do that on you, man.
Which is good. I love it. I love it. When we talk about that overnight success and you see someone who seems to just pop onto the scene and you're like, oh, where did this person come from? Did they have like a machine behind them to help them get there? Were they sponsored by something? But what they don't see is all the mess. They literally only see the tip of the iceberg, see everything that's underneath that led to that, right?
Yeah. And, I tried the motorcycle thing with a shop, the whole 9 yards, probably 15 years ago. And it was over before it started pretty much, I mean, I wasn't there maturity level, and I wasn't there really even as a fabricator to do that yet. So a lot of it's timing too, there's a lot to it to make it all work. My fiance and I have been together about 7 years now. And, that's been a big thing too. People in your corner. I don't have anybody else. There's no team. It's just me. My shop's small. I'm a one-man show, and I had a full-time day job until, fairly recently. So it's just, there's a lot of dynamics to making it work, and
man. I mean, sometimes I think a lot of people find themselves at some point in their life looking back and saying, I don't know, Lugnuts, you tell me if you've ever felt this way. I know you haven't, dude, because you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, but but I think some people, sometimes we sit back and we say, damn, I shouldn't even be here. Like, not where I am, but I shouldn't even be above the earth right now.
Yeah, I've almost died twice, like literally. And like on the ER table, and I've had some close calls, and I used to party pretty hard, and so now I'm pretty boring these days compared to, I mean, I have my moments, don't get me wrong, but it's
sure.
For the most part, it's at some point you got to slow it down, because you do start thinking like that. You're like, fuck, man, I went hard for a long time, and you get, it's almost like, all right, it's a luck thing. You got to quit while you're ahead, you're gambling.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And Lugnuts, I mean, you came from another country to come over here to what kicked that off, by the way? I know we're getting off on a little sidetrack, but that just got me thinking, like, what was your story, man?
Schooling, man. That's really what it boils down to. My parents saw the opportunity of, hey, you can, because I have dual citizenship. So being Hispanic, even though when you check that box of being Hispanic, they automatically say like, oh yeah, we'll give you the opportunity to get scholarship and whatnot. That when I showed up, it was like, you're white. So yeah, judged by the color of my skin, that's a common thread in my life. But yeah, man, I that school is what brought me here. So
Cool, man.
once I got out through school, man, I mean, in college, that's when I bought my first bike. My parents, well, mainly my mom, she didn't want me to get a bike, and long story short, she said, hey, if you can afford it, you can have it. And well, sure enough, I mean, I starved myself, ate a whole bunch of homemade tacos that I know I could make for cheap, and got me my first bike and chopped it up. And that's the rest is history. So
that's cool, man. That's cool. Hey, I want to give a real quick shout out to a few people. I can't believe 25 minutes has already gone by, guys. It seems like we just started this thing.
That's crazy.
So much to talk about still. Let me just throw out some shout outs. We have who I call my partner in crime, Mary the Geared Raven. Such a cool moto vlogger. Mary, thanks so much for being here. Anonymous Biker USA, making some really good videos out there. Saddle Tramp. Oh, man, nice. Thank you for being here, buddy. Tony Cox. Okay, so Tony Cox, Mary the Geared Raven, a guy named Wet Banana, D-Cycle. They have, and I know I'm missing somebody out there. You guys put it in the chat. But yeah, they have a podcast called The Five Dirty Bikers. You guys go check them out. I think they were going to talk to John Maxwell soon or today or something. Mad Kiwi, Jim Rides, Ozark HD Riders. We saw him earlier. Who else do we have? I saw some of the Bikers and Brews guys. Just making my way down. Outback Outlaw from Australia. Good Lord, man. What time is it there? Put that in the chat. I want to see what time you got. We got DeBeard out here. He says, you guys aren't watching the Disney Family sing-along on ABC? Heck no, brother.
Taping it.
Yeah, taping it. Who's got time for that when, you could be here on the Dirty D's channel or you could be on Netflix watching God knows all the craziness that's going on over there. I started watching this show called The Whites of West Virginia. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's a family called the White family. These people are insane. Tiger.
I'll tell you how far behind we are. We just started messing with Netflix yesterday, so
quarantine times, man.
It brings out some shit.
I saw that Netflix stock is at an all-time high right now.
Higher than Disney. Higher than Disney's ever been.
Oh yeah. Well, Disney, man. I mean, shoot, they're closing down they had to shut down some of their parks and stuff for a while.
Yeah, it's Disney World's right like 30 minutes from me here. So Universal's a big part of it too. They've closed down through the end of May, all the way through May.
Insane, man. Insane, dude. And that's their money months. A couple other people we got out here. Ice Spike, my buddy Ice Spike, all the way from Australia. Thank you, brother, for being on here. Austin from Baggers and Brews. We have the Two Kiwi Riders. My friends, the Two Kiwi Riders. Hey, do me a favor. When everybody's done with this, go check out Two Kiwi Riders. I know they had a premiere tonight, and they do something called the Sporty Sports Face Station, which is kind of a spoof on sports. And I just cannot wait to see that video. You two guys are amazing out there. Love those people. Chase the Ride, Donna Main. I know I missed a lot of people, guys and gals. I'm sorry if I did, but I'm going to do another one of these shout outs here in just a little bit. All right. So let's continue.
Can I do one real quick? I got a buddy, another bike builder, Rich Petoniak. He's up in Massachusetts, and he's pretty sick right now. He came over and pretty good. So he's big cigar smoker. So this is out to Rich. I don't know if he's watching or watch it later, but hope you're doing good, buddy.
Wow, dude, let me tell you something about Rich Petoniak. I'm a big fan. I saw his Painkiller motorcycle.
Yep.
He's got that on and the way that I came across him is the same way that I found you, and the same way that I found our friend Xavier is by going to the Lone Star Rally, the last one that was there. I did a video on it, and I was walking around looking at some bikes, all y'all's bikes that were there, and each and every one of you had a big poster with your name. So of course, if I'm going to show the bike,
I got
that's the poster right back there, isn't it?
I got from both years. Yeah.
Incredible, dude. And so if I show the bike, then I showed the poster. And a few months back, like at the beginning of this year, I was just looking at that video again. It was such a good time. And then I started saying, you know what? I wonder if I reached out to some of these guys, if they'd be willing to jump on the show. And man, I'm so glad that it's worked out how it did. Rich Petoniak, I think, is going to be on my hit list pretty soon.
Yeah, he's a great guy and a motor guy, machinist, super knowledgeable. And I first that's why I actually met him in person finally, was in Galveston. Cycle Source puts on that show. Who anybody's not familiar with our scene or chopper scene, Cycle Source is the biggest contributor to keeping us what we're doing. I mean, they support and put on almost everything in our little genre of bikes. So, and they put us up in a builder house right in the beach in Galveston. So all of us guys are in a house together and hanging out for, was 4 or 5 days, whatever it was. So super cool. And that
must have been crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, but Rich is a good guy. You enjoy talking to him. He's got some stories himself.
And you guys actually had to be able to ride your bikes, right?
Yeah.
Like an 8-mile ride, or what was it?
It's called the In Motion Show. So, and it was one of I think it was the first one. Again, Cycle Source decided to do. The big thing with super high-end show bikes, a big argument is that they don't run, or they're not rideable. They're just for show. And a lot of times that was what was going on. So they put together a show where you had to complete a ride to show that the bike was functional and held up and did all the things a motorcycle's supposed to do. So I was lucky enough to do it 2 years. Year before last was the first bike I ever built and was in it. And then the one you saw this year, we did it. The first year was, I think, like a 30-mile ride. And then they upped it this past year. We did 78 miles on our bikes. Yeah. I did a rigid, it's a rigid jockey shift, no front brake, suicide clutch, all 9 yards. So it was pretty wild.
Is that the one with the 4-speed Baker?
Yep. Yeah.
Man, how was that with that 4-speed?
Galveston wasn't too bad. I did a show. I think you said you want to talk about too, the Golden Bolt in LA. And we had to do a 30-mile ride there through LA and Hollywood and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, no front brake, rigid suicide shift, foot clutch. That 30 miles was way more intense than 78 miles. Because I never knew, like, I've never been anywhere you can split lanes and like fly between cars. And so, yeah, that was super intense.
So speaking of that the 2019, man, being out there, 2019 was a massive year for you, buddy. Tell us a little bit about that, man.
Are you still okay if I don't use headphones?
Absolutely. We're good. Yep. Headphones not needed. I don't know if you can hear us, though. Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think I got to use headphones.
Yeah.
But I think I got to charge my phone here sooner or later.
That's cool, man. Whatever you got to do, that's all good, man. If you want to plug in somewhere and...
But I don't think I can hear you without my headphones.
Can you put it on... Did you put it on speaker?
I'm going to try.
Possible to do that?
Hold on, let me see here.
Cool, man. Cool. And while you're doing that, I'm going to read out some of these chats. While you're doing that, we have Ice Bike Filmmaker says, Dirty D's panelists, and all in the chat. Take care, mates, Who and Rue. Thank you for being here, Ice Bike. We have Awesome Baggers and Brew says later to Spike. I put in the phone number, by the way, guys. If anybody wants to call in, feel free to call. The phone number to get into the show is area code 346-248-7799 with a passcode 524558#. So go ahead and hit that when you get a chance. Let me see if Brian's still in here. Okay, very good. Let's see. 2 Kiwi riders in the house at Mad Kiwi in Central somewhere. We're in Dunedin. Okay, cool. So they're hooking up somewhere in Dunedin. Patrick Hattrick says, dude's shop looks like mine. Yeah, man. So, I mean, it's cool because Brian, as he mentioned earlier, just a one-man show. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and put up some pictures. Let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen. I want to put a couple pictures up here. Let's see. There we go. You gotta be able to see this. Can you guys see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
There we go. Yeah, I'm just gonna ride it out, and we'll figure out when I gotta charge it.
That's
we'll
cool,
work
man.
this out.
That's all good. That's all good.
So these, which out of the panhead or the shovel head, which one is your favorite?
Oh man, you know what? I gotta go with the shovel. To me, that one's just absolutely gorgeous, and I think people can see right now.
Yeah,
what
that
they're seeing
that
is
girder
the
front
pan.
end is absolutely sick.
Thanks, man.
It is
Absolutely
incredible,
sick.
man. Right now, I've got, I believe, a picture of the pan head is up there. That's the yellow number 2, isn't that right?
Yeah, I debuted that in Sturgis last year at Michael Lichter's What's the Skinny show. It's an invitational that Michael Lichter does. He's probably the most iconic photographer for motorcycle and motorcycle culture. And so it's a super honor to be invited to it. And I held off and finished it up and debuted it there. And that was, I think we had a couple weeks. That was a couple weeks before the LA Golden Bolt show.
Wow, what a bike, man!
So we finished that, and he ships it out to Sturgis for you. And then we did the show. A friend of mine was in the show also. Buddy of mine, Nick Pensabini. He didn't have anybody riding back with him, hauling the trailer to Florida. So him and I rode back. We had 5 days before we hit the road and had to leave Florida to LA for the Golden Bolt. We picked up Xavier on the way in Austin.
Nice.
And that was that the whole push to get the bike done and everything it did in that first couple months there was a lot to making it all happen. There was no time. And I think if you talk to any builder, like they all tell you every build, there's usually some kind of deadline, whether it's for a show or for, and it's always super stressful to finish up a bike.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think I read a little bit about that when they told you that you had to, does it start? And you like kickstarted the thing. The article says shit your pants and it started or something like that, man.
Yeah, that was the shovel head.
That's the shovel.
When I did I debuted the shovel in Daytona Bike Week a couple of years ago in 2018, and I pulled it out of the trail. I finished like 3 hours before we left for Daytona, and I took it there and we got it all dialed in. And Willie's Tropical Tattoo show is like the most famous bike week show for choppers, and so I won there and pulled it up on stage. And Roadside Marty, who everybody knows in the scene, and kind of razzes you, gives you a hard time, and I didn't know him then, now, and that he called me out and says that this beautiful bike, does that thing even run? So so I kick-started it, and it started one kick right on stage. So that was pretty cool. I didn't realize, because I haven't built bikes and I'm not a motor guy. I'm the first to say there's a lot I don't know, and I didn't know how special it was for one kick start on the stage. It doesn't happen. Kicking these bikes, especially when you're trying to dial them in, it's brutal. I think I don't
just
I think
kicking it is brutal. Tuning it in and then kicking it is even more brutal.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm still learning as I go. I've only built 2 bikes. I'm lucky to have a lot of guys in the industry and guys I even looked up to for a long time now know, and help me out and help to get things running and done the right way. And that's been imperative to making all this happen.
Yeah, sounds like somebody was looking out for you on that day, man. The motorcycle gods.
Yeah, hey, you take them when you can get them, man. It went my way that day.
So tell us a little bit about this bike. What we're seeing right now here on YouTube, obviously this is one of the stainless steel frames. Am I right on that?
Yep. Yeah, you can see on this bike, I didn't do it on the red one, but you can see behind the oil tank there, I left all the weld color on all the welds. So it kind of gives a rainbow effect. And it's just one more way of showing your craftsmanship, proper fit up and heat and there's a lot to making a weld.
Yeah, man,
Look
I'm over
pretty.
here. I'm looking at it on the other screen here, and it's just magnificent. Even the foot pegs, there's detail there as well.
Those are
Yeah.
boosted brads, right? Or is that on the shovel?
No, those were on the shovel. I got boosted Brad mid controls and his pegs on the red shovel, and those are my handmade mid controls, and the pegs are for Chopper Dave out in Long Beach, and they actually are casted, and they say on the top, "Fuck." One says "fuck," the other says "luck." So I mean, it's pretty cool, and he does all kinds of neat stuff like that. So I got those from him, and I raced BMX as a young kid and into my teens, so my bikes kind of have that influence and feel.
Man, oh man, this is nice. Let's get on to another one here. But well, here's a good picture here.
I already have it.
Of you riding these? I think it's the which one you riding here, Brian?
That's the red shovel. That's when I debuted it in Daytona in 2018, and that was actually the first photo shoot I did. Missy Shoemaker, photographer for Cycle Source, shot that with me right after Boogie East in Daytona.
So now, is that the one where you got best chopper, best of shovel, best of show, best bobber? Was that 2018 Daytona?
Yeah, I debuted the shovel, and we did 4 shows, and we won all of them. We won the first show was the Cycle Source show, and we won best shovel head, best chopper.
Best in show, best bobber.
Yeah, we did Willie's. They don't have really best of show there. It's just classes. We did best shovel there. We won the best of show at Boogie East, and then we won best in class at the Rat's Hole show on Sunday. And then we went on to Sturgis after that, and basically kind of did the same thing there. And winning the Rat's Hole in Sturgis is what sent me to Switzerland with that bike, and then eventually Abu Dhabi.
You got to be kidding me, man. So
yeah, the year in 2018 they had with custom who was it in Switzerland, but they had custom Swiss Moto. So they picked a winner or their best of show at the Rat's Hole show, and they went to an all expense paid trip. They sent the bike, they sent us, and did everything for us to go to Zurich and compete there. And then at the show there, we won best of show in Zurich, and then that sent us to custom show Emirates in Abu Dhabi. So they flew us into Dubai and went over to Abu Dhabi, competed there, and we won best in show there as well. Best custom radical, V-twin radical, and best in show.
Shoot, man. You got in a round. Last few years have been good to you, buddy.
Yeah, and I don't think it's all sunk in yet, really. It's, I at the end of the day, I think I'm just a glorified garage builder. I mean, I built that shovel head in a small 1-car garage, and it took me around the world. So the coolest part of all this is, when people message you and send you stuff that, they're in the same boat, or when they follow you and they kind of know your deal. They sit around a welding job all day, or they mess around with bikes in their garage, and you really spark something in them to be able to do that. That's the coolest part of it. And the friendships, people I met through this are awesome.
Man, absolutely incredible. So tell us a little bit about that bike. Did you say it's a 77?
Yeah, the red bike's a 77. It's an all original Harley motor. I picked that motor because that's my birth year. So kind of had a special meaning to me. And I just had a vision of a bike that I wanted to build, and just kind of set out to do it. I'm the first one to question myself, or kind of, I don't know if I can do it or not. So I reached out to a lot of people. As there's a guy, Hard World now is Instagram for showing your work and advertisement and stuff. And he's a great fabricator up in Iowa. His name's Al Emerson. And I wanted to get with him. He built frames, and I wanted to go with him up to his place and see if he could help me with building one. And deep down, I probably knew I could do it myself, but I just, like I said, I second guessed. So I reached out to a lot of people to help. And eventually, it came down to, guys that are good. We're busy and stuff was going on, and I got impatient. And so I said, fuck it. I can do this. And I set out and I built the frame and then the front end, and, eventually it became a bike.
And how long did it take you to put it together?
Right about a year.
Okay.
So
that was nights and weekends and stuff,
That's crazy. Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. One of the things that I noticed, if I looked at both of your bikes, the Panhead and the Shovelhead, it is pretty clear to me that it seems like you on purpose made the pipes to go around the engine as to almost to display the engine itself without obstruction of the exhaust. Did you do that on purpose on both bikes, or is that just something that just kind of naturally happened? Because on the Shovelhead, the pipes go around the bottom, and then on the Panhead, they go on the left side of the motorcycle.
Yeah, and I'm doing a 73 shovel now, and I'm actually in the middle of doing the pipes, and I'm noticing they're coming out the same way. So I guess it's just a style thing.
So is it kind of like a subconscious decision?
Yeah, I like everything real tight and flowing, and just not. I don't know. I have a real specific style I like, and I build to it. And I'm sorry for the audio, guys. I'm trying to deal with this charging this phone.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Sound good.
I see it, and I get the flow, and we roll with it. So
when you did the decide to choose the girder front end on the shovel and then the Springer front end on the Panhead, was there kind of like a thought behind that process, or was it more of a style that you were looking forward to?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Can you hear us?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I and I'll get the video back shortly. I just can't do both.
No, that's all good.
So the girder front end came from wanting to do something different. It's the oldest design front end, one of the oldest, and a lot of guys will tell you it's the best handling. And I just saw it as a way to kind of display your work. There's a lot to it, and it gives you a lot of things that some typical front ends don't. So, and then it was my kind of on the second bike on the Pan, I didn't want to do what I did on the first one. So I did the traditional Springer, and actually worked with a guy, Eric. He's with Speed Junkie on CycleWorks, and as simple as it is, that's his design on the front end. So I got with him on some of the machining and the drawings for stuff, and worked with him on making that front end happen. And then I built it here all in stainless.
So with the both frames being rigid, which one is the let's say more comfortable or better handling bike?
All around rideability, the red bike is, it's like a beach cruiser. It feels like, it's super stable. It's easy to ride. It's fun to ride. Whereas the gold bike, we followed once we knew we were going to do the what's the skinny show for Michael, the theme was skinny bikes. So I really narrowed it up. And if you look at the bars, they're super, super narrow.
Oh yeah.
And,
lane splitter all day.
Yeah. and and at slow speeds, it's sketchy, man. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to sit and tell you, I wouldn't put just anybody on the bike, so, but the flip side of that is once you get going a little bit, you got some speed, that thing is super responsive, and in the geometry, it's, my bikes are built right. And I spent a lot of time on researching, you know, what I need to make it handle right. And, you know, a lot when I just didn't start throwing metal together a couple of years ago and said, fuck it, let's see what happens. You know, I put a lot into it. And so with all that, it, you know, geometry and everything, the math is right. The bike will ride good, but narrow and everything else, it's a totally, they're night and day from each other, you know?
Oh yeah.
You get on the Gold bike and you get on it and it's like, it's pure adrenaline, you know? And whereas the red bike, you just kind of want to cruise down the coastline and just take it all in, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know the feeling.
We did get a question. We got a question in the chat for you, Brian, from Austin. He's with a channel called Baggers and Brews. Those guys are, I think, up in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. But he's asking, in Abu Dhabi, was it at the Marina Mall? Because apparently he'd been up there a few times and he's been in that area, saw some bike shows. Is that where that was?
No, it was at the, I think it was kind of like the equivalent to their convention center. Okay. There. But if he's talking about the mall, like it's a shopping mall, but it's just insane. And I think that was in Dubai, but we pretty much went from Dubai to Abu Dhabi to our place, and we got to sightsee a little bit, but it was pretty much just, you know, the show. But and I don't remember the name of the place, but it was just like the convention center.
That's cool, man. That's cool. All right, so I want to get a little bit off topic real quick, get back into some of the stories. Can you get into a little bit about your fighting career? How did that end up happening? I saw that you have a perfect record, by the way, brother. Congratulations.
Well, that's a fairly short-lived fight career. So, I mean, that's not as impressive as it sounds. But... Well, you know, I there's a lot of fights I did that weren't, you know, my MMA aspect of it was the shortest part, and I didn't even get into it till probably a little older than I should have been. But the whole fight thing, I guess it started, I was late junior high or so. I got involved with the after school program, police athletic league, and got into boxing. Was always really a fan of boxing and big into boxing. So did that for a while, off and on. And out in Vegas, kind of got in connection through the work I did. It just kind of came natural. Guys that were into MMA real big. A lot of people don't know, but Frank, if they follow MMA, Frank Mir, he's two-time heavyweight world champion in the UFC. He used to be head of security at Spearmint Rhino in Vegas. So, you know, all those guys it was just, I mean, it's a fight capital. So yeah, I kind of messed with it out there a little bit. And then the last run was in Cincinnati. I met who became one of my best friends to this day, Roger Bowling, who was kind of the guy in that region as a fighter. And we became real close, and I trained with those guys. And people don't know it, but Cincinnati is a pretty big fight town itself, especially in boxing. And so started training there, and then they got me. That's where I first officially transferred from boxing to MMA, and it was kind of a who you know thing. So I was like way over my head, like way out of my league from from the get go. You know, I was at a big casino and resort, and like cameras in my face, and it was my first real MMA fight. It was pretty crazy, but it was a lot of fun. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for those guys that do that.
Jeez, man.
But yeah, so it started pretty young and just an off and on thing, you know, up till, I think my last fight was 2009. Wow. Yeah, 2009, I think.
Well, if we ever make it back up to the Lone Star Rally and things get a little bit funky out there, I'm going to be looking for you, dude, to hang out with, because I'm sure you can handle yourself in those situations pretty well.
Say again. I'm sorry, I lost.
Yeah,
lost.
I was saying if it ever gets a little bit funky out there, next time we're in at the Lone Star Rally.
I tell you, man, the Lone Star. Out of all the now I've been to like all the rallies pretty much, and the big ones, and all the scenes, and I'll tell you, man, the Lone Star Rally is like crazy, crazy, dude. Like, in my opinion, blows away Sturgis, Bike Week in Daytona. Like, it's madness, dude. I've never seen that many people. Like, their main street is the Strand, I think is what they called it down there.
Yes.
Dude, I mean, it was and there, like, you do the stuff in Daytona here that guys are doing there all the time, and like, you're going to jail. Everybody there is like, fuck it, dude. You know, it's like free for all, revving bikes and burning out, and tons and tons of people, and it's a crazy rally, man. Crazy rally. And I went the last 2 years, and both times it's consistent, and that's an awesome show. If anybody's in Texas or in that area, I think it ends up falling around like the first week of November, end of October. They do it. And it's always like world-class bikes, man. The best guys. It's a great show. Like I said, they're all functioning bikes. They're all proven the day before judging, and you know, it's a good one to check out, even if you're not like a super bike person, you know, just to see the custom world. That's a great one that they display them for the whole time of the rally right there in the park.
Yeah, it's incredible. I got to talk with Brandon Keene for a little bit. Had an amazing bike out there as well. One of the bike builders this past year. And I too, I mean, 2 years ago was the first time I went to Lone Star Rally. Then I went last year, and they just have such an incredible time. Last year, it worked out perfectly because it was happening during Halloween. And Halloween night, they had this huge costume contest, and you can imagine a costume contest at a bike rally, the things you're going to see there. It was a lot of that stuff couldn't make it onto the videos because I didn't want to get it shut down. You know, it was a good time.
I think we just lost them there for.
Okay, that's all right. We're coming right up on an hour, so that's about right, man. I'm gonna shoot him a text here in a little bit, let him know how much we appreciated him, and maybe he'll pop on here in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
But dang, what a good time it is to be able to talk to a guy like Brian Buttera. Had his fair share of ups and downs. For anybody who joined late, got into some trouble, you know, kind of came from the streets, welded in fabrication for 20 years, now making stainless steel frames at the top of his game. I mean, I have a list this friggin' long of awards that he's won. I think we only got to talk to him about a couple of them, so we may have a part 2 coming up. But what else did he do? 2019 Golden Bolt winner, 2019 AMD American champion, Cycle Source, Broken Spoke, best chopper, best shovel, best of show, best bobber. What did I have written down over here? Rat's Hole winner at Sturgis, took him to Zurich, took him to Dubai, took him to Abu Dhabi, man. I mean, literally a world-class bike builder, a world-class bike building champion, just been in the game a couple years. So yeah, man, I think that's kind of the high note. We'll get ready to wrap it on up, right up at an hour here. I want to thank everybody who showed up. Lugnuts, again, brother, I appreciate you so much for being on here because you know more about bikes than I do. So when we get the bike builders on, you bring a little intelligence to the show, man. So I appreciate you, dude.
Not a lot of intelligence, just very little knowledge. I know people that have like 10 times the knowledge that I do.
Well, look, man, with everything being shut down for now, you know what I mean? I mean, I need to find my way up to your neck of the woods, dude. And,
yeah, you need to go ahead and ride up here, man, for real. There's some nice places around Fort Worth we can go ride.
I'm serious, man. And I know that right now hotel rooms are dirt cheap too. So I could probably stay at like the freaking Ritz Carlton or the Waldorf out there for probably $100.
Right. Or you can just stay at my place for free, man. That's even cheaper.
That's the plan, brother. We'll do a dual vlog.
There you go, man. Let's make it happen.
Always appreciate you so much, man.
Yeah, always happy to be on here, man.
Who's always down to be on, man. Just a couple more shout outs to everybody out there. Two Kiwi Riders saying, Dirty D's, thanks for these streams, brother. I want to send real quick, just a little favor. Everybody who's in the chat, as soon as we wrap this up, and I'm going to do a roll call here in a minute, and thank you all for being here. But jump on over to Two Kiwi Riders if you didn't have a chance to see their premiere tonight. which I unfortunately had scheduled this at the exact same time they did their premiere, but I'm going right on over there to check them out. We had Rhett Moto. Haven't seen you in a while, buddy. Thanks for being on here. Dozer was here. Ice Spike. Austin from Baggers and Brews. I also saw DeBeard from Baggers and Brews. 2 Kiwi riders, of course. Mad Kiwi. We had Larry Blevins said, I was looking forward to Born Free here in California, but I do not think it will happen. Yeah, I know. Man, let's just hope.
That was a huge bummer.
Yeah, let's hope and pray everything gets back to normal as quick as possible so we can get back out there. Going out on the road, we can do that anytime, but it's the rallies and stuff, man, that I'm missing right now. Bike shows and all that. We had Blondie Braps. Very cool. I haven't seen you out here. I appreciate you being here. Kiki Keat. Who else? Patrick Hattrick. The usual suspects, man. Ozarks Riders. I know he jumped off. Chase the Ride. Larry Blevins. Who else did we have? I know I'm missing people. Mohawk Mike Motorcycles. Working my way down. I think I saw the Badgers out here as well. Yeah, man. I think that Keith Johnson. Bodine 52. What's up, brother? Thanks for being on here. Patrick Hattrick. I was called Mr. Patty Hattie in the house. Draco's Bike Builder Images. Draco's Bike Builder Images. I'm going to go check you out, man. He says, thanks for doing this. Very cool. I appreciate you being here. Everybody, thanks a lot. Go check out Brian Buttera. It's Brian Buttera, I believe, Metalworks, WERX on Instagram. Go check him out. Give him a follow. He's got all kinds of great stuff up there, man, and you can follow his journey as well. All right.
Is it Buteras_metal_works, WERX. And yeah, you should say he has some good stuff on his Instagram, man. Go ahead and follow him.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. All right, cool. I appreciate everybody being here, and I'll see you guys on the next.
Peace.
Right. Peace out, people. Be safe, and we'll see you around.